Okay, ladies, we're gonna start off with this, okay? Came out with a new book, Women Made New, and I wanna read something that is gonna hit the core of a lot of stuff probably going on with you, okay? Have you ever felt that you are not enough, that you amount to less than those around you, or that situation was too much to handle? Did your self-doubt then kick in, and did you ever start questioning your ability and skills? Have you ever felt that you do not deserve the love and blessing that God has placed before you? Have you ever thought that you were not smart enough, pretty enough, compared with others? Have you ever allowed your fear to prevent you from moving forward to attain a specific goal? Did you ever ignore that small, still voice nudging you to do or say something? Or did you decide to act on it only to talk yourself out of it? Unfortunately, I have ignored that small, still voice on many occasions, and we are all guilty of giving in to that self-doubt, fear, because somehow that negative voice seems more powerful than that small, still voice assuring us that we have what it takes. Ladies, the question that drew you here, the question I have for you is, what is keeping you from becoming the woman that God has created you to be? There is something, there is this, whatever it is. Whoa, hey, I'm literally, whoa, okay, almost went through that. There's something, these things are dangerous. So there is something that is there. But what is it? Because whatever is there, it's a wound, it's something may have happened, whatever it is, and I have found in my own life that I really had to dig deep, because a lot of vices will stem out of that. And you kind of start going after the vices, but there's actually something bigger than that that is causing it. So let's go way back. That when I was little, my father left when I was 2, so I grew up in a broken home, and I knew that love didn't last. And in high school, I found my first boyfriend I thought I loved, and it was just unbelievable that he says, well, if you love me, you'd show me. And so I went to my friends, and they said, well, if you love him, well, yeah, you'd show him, right? I mean, what's the deal? So I ended up losing my virginity, and he ended up cheating on me, and everybody knows when they're being used, and I was. And my life slowly just spiraled because I gave everything, and he walked away. And so it just led to one thing after the other, and I became very promiscuous. I was the party girl, you name it, I was into it, and I went to church on Sundays, I wore a mask, I lived in Halloween, I felt like, because I was so fake, and I acted so happy, and everything I did was great, but I was miserable, and I hated to be alone at night. I cried, I hated it. How do you recover when you feel dead? How do you resurrect from that? And I thought, well, God doesn't want me, I'm trash, because I let the world take everything that I had that I felt was pure, good, and innocent, and I became this person I never meant to be. And that happens a lot of times. But God's mercy is good, and my mom forced me to go to this chastity talk, and I went, and there was a young man who was very honest, blunt, and real, and he had a lot of courage, right? And he stood up, and he talked about everything that he had been into, and he pierced that darkness that I was in, that nobody, and I mean nobody, could pierce that darkness. And my mother tried, and nobody could help me. Now this young man, his courage was contagious. So all of you sitting here, do not underestimate the power of your own testimony to the world, to your friends, to your family. Whatever it is God is calling you to, there is a purpose. There is a plan. And that young man, imagine if he's like, oh, I don't feel like doing this right now. Where would I be? It's a ripple effect of your decisions. What you do right now matters, and we'll get into that later. Now, I had this huge conversion, and I decided to go to confession, and it was unbelievable from that one young man. My life, the trajectory of it completely changed. And I ended up going and becoming a chastity speaker, and I ended up marrying Jason, and it was unbelievable what God was able to do in my life, and I became incredibly Eucharistic. Now, I ended up meeting Jason, and we got married, and I'd say maybe 3 babies into it, right? I started having a lot of problems. I was angry, I was mad, I didn't know what was happening to me, and I didn't understand myself anymore. And I'm just like, what is going on? Because you think that when you get married, you leave this past and everything you've done behind, right? And you're walking down the aisle into this fairy tale and this new life. And I left all the drama outside of the church when in all actuality, I just carried it down into the aisle with me. Because if you have wounds and you have pain and unhealed brokenness, you will be bringing that into your marriage. You will be bringing that onto your children, onto the workplace, and your friends, your relationships, and it's just gonna spew out onto everything. And you think you can stuff your stuff, right? Ladies are really good at that. Sometimes guys are too. And then we put our lipstick on it and we act like everything's fine when it's really not. So don't fool yourself if things have happened and things have gone on that it's not a big deal. It's not that bad, but it is. And it has to be addressed and you have to deal with it. So one day I was just crying and I remember doing the dishes and I'm wearing gloves and the kids are everywhere and I just started crying and Jason comes up from behind me, he's like, you're just under construction right now. God has you under construction. And I'm like, thank you. And I'm like, that's the best you could do, but okay, thank you. It was really cute because he was trying to help me, but it was true. It was perfect, it was true. And I kept going to adoration and God told me in adoration was very humbling that I needed to go to counseling. And I didn't want to because it's like, who goes to counseling? Broken people. I'm not broken. Those people are broken. I'm not broken. But I was more broken than I actually knew or even wanted to admit. And it was hard. And I love the fact that the bishop talked about that this morning. It was beautiful to have a leader in our church who admits that brokenness, there's a problem, and that you go get help, and that Jesus will walk you through it. And so in adoration, Jesus kept saying, you need to go to counseling. And I was like, no, I'm not going. He's like, you need to go to counseling. We're not going anywhere else unless you go to counseling. So I went to counseling, and I didn't want to. It was hard. But I'm telling you, ladies, I realized in my counseling sessions, and thank God I did it with Jesus, because only he can go into those darkest of places that you want to hide and never let the world in or let light in to see. And it turns out that I was sexually abused when I was a child. Now, when that stuff came up and out, my entire world was just, the ground fell out beneath me. And what do you do? What do you do when the ground falls out beneath you? The Bengals game that just happened over the weekend, that young man who just went to go play that football game, best game of his life, he thought, everything that happened, and the world is watching, right? What did those grown football player men do when that crisis was happening, the ground fell out beneath them? They got on their knees. They prayed to God. Because when you have nowhere to go, nothing to do, and you're just like flailing, you pray to God. And that's where I was at. And in that moment was one of the hardest moments of my life, but it was one of the most profound, unbelievable moments because I understood myself for the first time ever. I understood why I sexualized my anger. I understood why I was so angry and I had a hard time giving love and receiving love, and everything just like, whoo, made sense. And Jesus was right there with me. I would go to counseling, I'd go to adoration, and I had a really good priest. And those were the 3 ingredients that I had to do that. And if any of you have a healing process that you need to undergo, that you maybe have been raped, maybe you had an abortion, maybe you were sexually abused, maybe you're in a really bad abusive relationship and you keep justifying it and acting like, oh, it's okay, it's not that bad. It is. I'm telling you right now, it is that bad. And you need to get rid of the rot in your life. Jesus today has invited every single one of you because Jesus is pursuing every single one of you on such a deep, unbelievable level that you don't even realize how privileged you are to be sitting here, and not that, ooh, it's my talk. I'm talking about this entire conference. You were chosen. You listened to the call. This is serious, and I want you to take it serious. The God of heaven and earth, the King, called you, and here you are. This is not about finding your soulmate. This is not about yes, you're at college and just having fun and being with everybody for a weekend and meeting people from all over the country and going to these awesome talks and posting it. It is that, but it's so much more. And let's get a little deep right now. Every single one of you has mission. When God took you and he created you, he had a dream in mind just for you. Something that you have to do, something that he gave you. So like I explain this to my kids. When God made mommy, okay, and he gave me that sugar and spice and he's making up Crystalina, he didn't give me the like little spice of cooking. I'm a horrible cook. I hate cooking, it's really bad. I'm like, God just didn't give that part to me. There are different gifts and talents and things that we all have, that everyone has a seat at the table. There's no competition with the other girls or the other guys. Like, we all have a seat at the table. And even if someone came and tried to fill my shoes, right? They could not. They could copy me, they could dress like me, they could act like me, they could maybe find similar things in their same story of their life and try to take on, but they never, ever could be me or take on my essence, just like nobody can take on you, your essence, and your gift, and that gift for the world. And every single one of you has it. Well, some of you are like, well, how do I know? How do I hear it? How do I know what that is, right? Your compass, like God, I feel, has built a compass inside of each and every one of us. And I tell my kids this way: listen to that small, still voice. Listen to your conscience. Because I'm telling you right now, ladies, I don't care how drunk, how high, what situation I was in, God was pursuing me in that darkness, and I still heard his voice. I heard his voice saying to me, don't go to that party. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Don't wear that. Is it too short? Is it too high, I'd ask? And I'm like, yeah, well, it was, and I knew it, but I wanted to shut the voice up, right? You know, everybody knows if you should be doing what you're doing, dating who you're dating, living where you're living, going to the places you're going, listening, watching, posting what you're doing in your life. You know. And we want to act like we don't, but deep down, come on, we know, because I knew. No matter how much I wanted to numb and shut that voice up, I could not. I just didn't know how to resurrect I was just dead inside. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. The King of heaven and earth is talking to you. And what is he saying, and what are you saying back, or what are your actions saying back? Are you saying later? Do you know how many times I told God later? And I look back at those moments like, wow, I need to check myself. And this conference is an excellent place for every one of you to check yourselves and to check in with God. Why are you here? What are you ignoring? What do you need to do? And again, the question, what is it that is keeping you from becoming the woman or the man that God is calling you to be? And you know what? He'll answer. And it may be a scary question, but he will answer. And tonight, you will see him in adoration. He's coming to you. Listen. Don't pay attention to your friends. Don't think about that cute guy or that cute girl or should I post this? No. Go in there with this mindset of, like, I'm going to see Jesus. What's he going to say? What is he going to ask me? Like, he's right there. He's not up high, pie in the sky, like so hard to reach. He didn't leave us orphans when he left and he ascended into heaven. He's upstairs. I saw him this morning. And you need to go and see him. And I don't know how many of you have been to the Eucharistic Adoration Chapel. Hopefully every single one of you in here. And you don't have to raise hands. We're not pointing anyone out here. But go and see him. And tonight, everyone's going to see him. And he's going to put on a show. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. but drown it all out and try to focus on what he needs you to do, what he's trying to say, and invite him, give him permission. And that's one thing I had to learn, is that you have to let him in. He'll never just come in and do what he needs to do and take over your life. Nope, that's up to you. That is up to you. It is a choice and it is a decision. Just like everybody that's in hell right now, that was a choice. That was a choice to be in hell. That was a choice to stay in mortal sin. That was a choice. And when a priest said that once, it shocked me. But it's true. And the decisions and the things that you do right here, right now, when you leave this room, they matter and they hold weight in heaven and they hold weight on this earth. Because imagine for a second that if I listened to that guy and I said, oh, not right now. No, thank you. I have a party to go to maybe next week, and I'll have my fun, and then it'll be good. What if I said that and turned my back to God? Turned my back on God? I know I would not be standing here talking with you. I know I never would have married Jason. He would have wanted to counsel me, not marry me, right? And our 11 children, 11, it's crazy that's coming out of my mouth. I don't look like a mom by 11, I hope, but I have 11 children. I have 3 babies in heaven, and then I have my 8. But none of them would have come into existence if I didn't say that little yes. So again, what you do and the decisions you make right now hold weight. And I always put it through the fire of my compass, of God's voice, what he's asking. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I want to ignore it. Sometimes I'm too tired. But if you can listen with obedience, with haste, you will be blessed beyond measure. And God will and can do great, great things with you. And every single one of you has the ability, I don't care how old, how young, what your background looks like, what you've been through, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking God can do anything, that he can use you. So don't listen to the voices. Don't listen to the demonic dialogue that the devil draws you in and jacks you up, because he does it to me. And I'm going to tell you right now, imagine there's someone coming after you and attacking you with a weapon, right? Just like a knife or something, right? Just bear with me. What would you do? You'd protect yourself. You'd fight back. You're like, this isn't going down. I'm fighting. You are spiritually under attack every day with that demonic dialogue and the lies you're allowing in to believe. You're not good enough. You're weak. You're not smart enough. They don't want you. You're not good enough. That is an assault on your spirit from the devil. And how is he taking you out? This is serious. And we need to start acting like it. It's time to step up, ladies. All hands on deck. Like, our church is in need and God is calling you. Yes. But don't be afraid. And I heard this quote, it's so awesome. And I want you to remember this the next time you're like, oh, I look so fat, or I'm stupid, or this or that, or you hear that, right? Death by 1,000 cuts. That's what the devil's doing to you with listening to that garbage. Death by 1,000 cuts. And you know my remedy for that now that I learned by the amazing Emily Wilson? I interviewed her. She's awesome. And she told me on one of my interviews, she says, you know what I say when I start hearing lies? She goes, I literally say, Jesus, tell me the truth. And you know, ever since she said that, every time I start hearing or I know like something's just off, and you know, you can tune in, I literally will, I just say out loud, Jesus, tell me the truth. Because two things the devil can't stand is Jesus and truth, huh? Let me tell you what, and they're one and the same. And you just say it out loud, and sometimes my kids are like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm talking to Jesus, leave me alone. And now they're just used to it. They don't even ask anymore. They're just like, Mom's talking to Jesus again. You're dang right I am. I have a relationship with him, and so should you. And you should talk to him every day and whisper it in your heart, Jesus, tell me the truth. Who cares what the world says? God is not basing his blessings and anointing on your life based on what other people think of you. Who cares what they think of you? But you better care what God thinks about you, because that's what matters most. That's it. nothing else. And if you can base everything off of your relationship with Jesus and go to adoration, you put everything through the fire of that Eucharist, the things that aren't supposed to be in your life will get burnt up. They won't survive. Maybe it's a guy you're dating, a girl you're dating. Take them to Eucharistic adoration once a week. Make sure you go in there, you pray, you see how they pray, see how they worship God, see if you pray outside of that. Always take everything through Jesus, because I'm telling you, in the end, it won't survive the long haul of it because it doesn't belong in your life. And God will show you, but you have to ask. Something amazing, right? God's people suffer. We, you, me, are God's people. And don't forget that. We are not of the world. We are God's people. And you have to handle your problems as God's people. And you're trying to handle your problems and issues and things going on in your life. You're trying to handle them in a worldly way, but you can't, because we're God's people. And we live in the world, but we do not solve our problems the way the world does, looking things up, finding things out, talk to everybody about it. No, we get on our knees. When you have a problem, you have something you can't handle, you ask God first. You get on your knees and say, God, direct me, God, guide me, God, lead me. And he will. That is using and wielding the weapons of light that we have. And we'll get more into that. But one of them is how you handle your suffering. Your suffering that God gives you, it really can be such a grace. Now, after my last Seek Talk, I was super pregnant. I know a lot of you saw that, but I was like majorly pregnant, and I gave a Seek Talk. I went home. Not too long after that, I think I was almost 8 months pregnant. It was 8 months. And I bent down to get a juice box, right? I bent down to get a juice box, and I leaned over, and I'm all lucid because I'm ready to have a baby, and my bones went like this, and they went back in the wrong way. I literally could not. I stood up and I fell, and I was in such pain. And I have childbirth, and that was like right up there with it. Jason gets me, and I'm like huge. I'm big as a house, and he carries me off, and we're going to the emergency room. They had no idea. I kept saying, I am dislocated. And they're like, no, you're not. I'm like, I'm dislocated. And they're like, there's no way to tell. I couldn't get an x-ray, nothing. And I had to stay like that until I had the baby. Now, I went home. I'm pregnant. We just moved to Arizona. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. And I couldn't move. And I was still shaking because I was in so much pain. And I was just bedridden. Now, in those moments, there's the moments when you cry to God, and there's moments when you are crying out to God. I was crying out to God, ladies, for months. It was intense, but something happened to me. While I was there and praying with God, I had this dream. No joke, I had this dream. And all of a sudden, I'm praying, whatever, and I had a dream. And all of a sudden, I was standing in the sea, like this room of women, and the back was to me. And they were all going like this, because this black shadow came and was swooping in and out of the crowd of women. And I saw it, and it freaked me out, but every time it passed, they would just go like this. And I'm looking over, and I'm like, what are those? And I turned around, and I said, Lord Jesus, what are those? And all of these like gorgeous, magnificent gems were falling into this sand, this desolate, this dead desert, creepy. And you know when wet rocks hit wet sand? That's what it sounded like. And I said, and then the sand would come up, swallow it like it was never there. And I said, Lord Jesus, what are those? And I actually heard a voice. He says, those are the gifts, the talents, and virtues that I have given women in their vocation, and they are throwing them away. They are giving way to the world. And then I heard, go find those gems and give them back to the women. And then I woke up. I'm like, what? Wait, gems? Where are these gems? Like, I woke so unsatisfied. Like, what just happened? And I was just like almost angry. Like, what does that even mean? How do you even find those things, you know? And I was just like wrestling with this, and I would take it to prayer, and I told Jason, and we talked to it. He's like, okay, yeah, we'll pray about that. And we just went on. I had a baby. I was emotional, whatever. So life went on. I started my Women Made New. I have my podcast with EWTN, and I did my Women Made New television show. And it wasn't the gem. I'm like, what is happening? And years passed, okay? Then all of a sudden I was in adoration, and I had this idea. I had this thought to write this book with all these different women that have all these amazing ministries, that if you are suffering, if you have an eating disorder, if you believe lies, if you come from a family of divorce, whatever it is, you're broken, spiritual warfare, that you can get this book and it would be almost just a weapon that you could go and you could find what you needed. Because these women are all overcomers. They're all overcomers and they're amazing. And so as I was asking, I asked God, who do you want in this book, all of these things, and I have a picture of all the contributors. Can you pull that up of all the little circles of the pictures? And I asked these different women. That's Saint Therese. We'll get into her. So everything with Saint Therese, everything I do, I actually do a novena to Saint Therese, and she always answers me. And do you know, I got permission from her Carmel to actually refurbish that photo of her dressed as Saint Joan of Arc, because you always see it like blurry and black and white. And I took it to a professional company, and that is what came out, is that gorgeous picture of Saint Therese. Will you pull that up? I see it here, but I don't see it there. There it is. Look at that, ladies. That is a warrior. And we know her as the little flower, but I'm sorry, I don't think she's a little flower in heaven. I think she's like God's warrior. She is calling an army of women on earth right now, I feel, and she's calling you. And I have postcards at the EWTN booth to give to all of you if you want one. I made 500, so if you want that photo, you can go there and you can get it, and I'll just hand them out to you as my little gift. So just to remind you, you've got mission. And she did, and so do you. But all these contributors, I was asking one of the contributors, all the picture of the bubble of the women, I was asking all these women, there's Cameron Fradd, Sarah Swall, all, Sister Miriam James. And one of the women I asked, there's what do you want me to write? What do I write in it? And I was telling all the women this, whatever gem God gives you in adoration, write that. And as soon as I said that, my heart was like, and I got off the phone and I said, the gems. I'm collecting the gems. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I really believe that words are life-giving. And I know these words are life-giving with the different things all of these women went through. And even Mother Angelica, that is someone that we really overlook. She came from a broken family. She came from a mess, but she listened. She listened and she loved Jesus and she defended him, and she knew that she wanted to get the masses out there to know and love Jesus. And she didn't know how to run a network. EWTN is an international Catholic radio television network that reaches people to ends of the earth you wouldn't even believe. And this little tiny nun, just one step, one foot in front of the other. Yes, Jesus, whatever you want, Jesus. I don't know what I'm doing, but you need to do it. Thank you, Jesus. And she did it, and she was obedient, ladies. She was obedient. And she's amazing. She's a powerhouse. Will you pull the picture of the nun up, please? Everyone thinks, oh, my grandma used to watch EWTN. I remember that, the nun. Oh, no, honey. This is for right now. I listen to her and her podcast, and you can download the EWTN app for free. You can get good Catholic solid news because who knows what they put on the news, and they have the news, but there's shows, but you can listen to her. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, she hits me between the eyes even now. And I listened to 300 hours to compile 2 chapters of her in my book. So lady, this is life-giving stuff. She is amazing. And you know that quote, if you become who you should, you set the world on fire. I'm probably not saying it right, but everyone's kind of heard that. That is an example, a living example that we had. She has passed away now, that she is still setting the world on fire with what she did and what God asked her to do. She's still setting it ablaze from heaven, all because of her yes. I really believe Jesus did. He died on the cross and he saved us. But I truly believe if you go back further in the Garden of Gethsemane, I really believe it was his obedience to die on that cross. And your obedience is everything, ladies. Now we're going to be coming to a close. And I am going to be at the EWTN booth, and I have my books. I only have a handful, but I do have them for sale there. Download the EWTN app. Use how to learn your weapons of light that God gave you. The rosary. They have mass, they have prayers, they have litanies, they have teachings, and it's all right there. Anywhere in the world you can get that and you can listen to it. It's huge. It's a big deal. And you pull my book up on the screen, please. I'll have the book, and then ladies, I'm gonna leave you with this, okay? I'm gonna leave you with this last image. I was in adoration, and I was thinking, how does God really love me? Out of all these billions of people. You can take my book down now, thank you. Out of all these billions of people, like really? And I was like struggling with this, but I know it was like an oppression, like I was having something. And all of a sudden I had this, and I'm a visual prayer, okay? All of a sudden I saw the Sacred Heart, and then it exploded. Now bear with me. It exploded, and then it came back together. Whew. When it came back together, it looked like little puzzle pieces that compiled the Sacred Heart, and there were holes in the heart. But I saw my name, and it came out that everybody has a piece of God's heart, Jesus' heart he made with you. And nobody can replace that piece. Nobody can fit that piece. Nobody can resemble that piece except you. And the holes that were missing, there were people that rejected him, that didn't want him. And that hole will forever be there. But that's how, when I got it, I'm like, it's hard, but I have that piece and that piece alone of his most sacred, unbelievable, beautiful heart. That's my piece. And he loves me with all his might. It's mine. And you have your own. Every single one of your names, boom, it's right there. God loves you. And when you're not there, or the people that reject him, I'm sure his heart aches, and he misses, he loves, he wants them. So don't think, oh, I'm not special. I'm nothing to God. You're everything. And don't underestimate what God wants to do in your lives. Go to adoration. Embrace Jesus. Embrace him in that Eucharist. Say, Jesus, what do you want of me? And ask yourself that question. What is keeping you from becoming the woman God is calling you to be? It doesn't matter who you are, where you've been, what you've done. All that matters right now, ladies, is where you go from here. I will be at the EWTN booth, and please keep me in your prayers, and I will be praying for you. God bless you.